We have our first conference game this week, and one of the major goal in our program is to win the conference championship, and you have to start winning conference games if you want to do that. I think UNLV probably feels the exact same way. The last couple of weeks, neither one of us have played very well, and we think the conference schedule or first conference game is a rebirth of your season. So I think both teams will come with their A game. Both teams will play with great effort and intensity, and the team that makes the most plays is going to win.
Does what happened in last year's game against UNLV affect in any way mental mindset of the players going in?
I think that our players have great respect for their players because their players took it to us last year. So I think we have some players that are playing for us right now that weren't here, though. Quite a few of them in key roles. But the ones that were here remember on how well they played and how poorly we played, or how well they played and made us look bad, however you want to put it. I don't think it's an overriding theme, though. I don't think those things happen anymore.
So you don't use that as any fodder and like to talk them?
No, we tell them about it, and just like they will, just like UNLV will, they'll watch last year's game, and we'll see what we did okay, and we'll see the many things that we did wrong, and they'll see the good things that they did and how they attacked us, and you use that as part of your game planning. It's not the only thing because they're a little bit different this year, and we're a little bit different this year.
What's different about them?
Oh, I think they are a lot more spread now. They have a new quarterback, but he's the same kind of quarterback they had last year. Throws the ball pretty well and really can get out of trouble and run with the ball himself. He's got great quickness and speed, and then he's very accurate with the football. So it's a different quarterback, but basically it's the same scheme. I think they're a little more spread now. They don't run it quite as much as they used to.
In your minds and the players' minds as well, do you think that the conference is wide open, so to speak? Or
I think the conference is wide open. I don't think have we had a conference game? We haven't had a conference game yet, right? So everybody looks forward to when the conference starts, as a kind of a season in a season.
Coach, in your mind, what is this team's biggest weakness right now? Your team.
I don't know if we have a biggest weakness.
What are some of the top couple of things that you?
I think I don't. It based on which game you want to talk about. I mean, we've had three games in three different. First game we had a little bit of a problem on defense at the safety position. The second game we turned the ball over in a critical situation. This last game we didn't block the pass rush very well. So I don't think there's a glaring weakness. I think that each game has had its positives and negatives. Last week it was we didn't protect the passer. The week before that it was we threw an interception at a critical time, but the team played well. The week before that the team played well, but the safeties didn't play too well in the game against Northern Arizona. So I don't think there's a glaring weakness. And I don't think there's one weakness worse than others. It kind of goes by the week that you're playing.
So with the past game in mind, you guys looked at the tape and you said you didn't block as well on the O-line for your passer as you'd like. Does that mean that the center position is still a battle in practice this week, or do you know who's going to be taking number one?
No, they'll be still competing at the center position.
Dilly and
but we have to do a better, Lenicio and Zach Dilly. We have to do a better job of protecting the passer if we want to throw it and catch it. And then our receivers have to do a better job of being at the right place at the right time and at the right depth of their routes, too.
Coach, will Chase Price get some more carries this week? Was last week against Oregon State an anomaly, or what was?
It's all based on – the game is based on how it goes.
Right.
I mean, if you get behind like we're behind, all of a sudden you throw it more and don't run it as much, and the running backs don't get near as many carries. If we had our perfect game plan, they would have had the same number of carries that they had in the North Carolina game, because that game was close all the way. In fact, we were ahead, so you got to control the ball. So there's no the plan going in is to get him that many carries, sure. That's the plan going in, but the way the game goes depends on what happens with the reps.
Is there anything in particular that jumps out at you about UNLV that you've really got to work on?
Several things. When you look at last year's film, they threw it and caught it really, really well, and we had a lot of trouble covering a couple of their wide receivers. I thought they did a great job last year of controlling our running game, which makes our passing game tougher. They have almost all the same guys back on offense. They have a few new guys on defense. I'm sure they're going to come into the game with great confidence. And so those same players are back, and I'm sure they're expecting to execute as well as they did last year against us.
Coach, when you look at Quinn's stats, I know you say they're not everything, but he's thrown 6 picks to 2 touchdowns this year. I mean, what do you think he needs to do to kind of push you guys in the right direction, given the pass game?
I think he needs help. I don't think it's the quarterback. You can't put everything on the quarterback. I mean, it's hard not to throw interceptions when people are hitting you as you throw. I mean, as good as Oregon State's quarterback is, and I think he's as good a college quarterback as far as NFL caliber goes in the country, he threw an interception because he had a guy in the face and he threw a bad ball and we intercepted it. He needs help. He needs the young receivers to step up and play better than they're playing, and he needs better protection out of the offensive line. It's not always the quarterback's fault.
And what was the big difference between how well the team played and how close the game was at North Carolina? And it just wasn't that way at Oregon State. Was the team not as mentally well prepared, or was it lack of protection for the quarterback and couldn't get into the lines?
I mean, we can go into a million different reasons. They played better than we did. They're more mature on defense than we are. You can not undercut the importance of Ezel Ruffin, since we didn't have a go-to wide receiver out there, and we had a bunch of young guys that made several mistakes. And then the protection of the quarterback, they outplayed us. It's as simple as that. They outplayed us.
In terms of the scouting report, were they basically who you thought they were going to be, or did they bring anything different to the table that you didn't expect? Or
Who's at Oregon State?
Yeah.
No, they brought what we thought. I mean, they had fewer points and less yards than they did last year. We just didn't score.
Would you say the pass protection was just really a glaring problem in the last game, or has it been kind of iffy all year? Because it looked like against, for example, North Carolina, that wasn't as much of an issue.
I think that it was only in the last game. Pass protection was an issue in the last game. It wasn't in the first 2. Now you got to give them credit. Maybe they have better guys rushing than the first 2 teams we play.
Just to clarify, Quinn Killer, he's pretty much the guy that's calling out all the assignments and whatnot. It's not the center, because I know you had Noble start for.
No, Quinn calls his protections,
So
and he'll change the running play if he sees something that he needs to change it for. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, Noble doesn't have that duty at all.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So what did Noble do, I guess, last week that made you guys think that he did better than Dilly overall?
He performed better in practice,
In what sense?
in every sense, or he wouldn't have started.
Have you seen, because you said Quinn was a little banged up on Sunday, have you seen him all today? Did you guys do
I haven't seen him personally, but I just talked to the trainer. He says he's 100%. He had a thigh bruise and tweaked his knee a little bit. The thigh bruise is completely gone, and the knee's a little sore and stiff, but he'll be fine.
full reps?
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking for more from Larry Clark? Because I know he's kind of the replacement right now for Ezel Ruffin, and he didn't have that great of a game against
I don't look specifically to any receiver
Right.
by himself to step up. I look to that whole group of wide receivers to step up. I mean, they're a young, talented group. They're playing like a young, talented group. Okay, they're not playing like a veteran, talented group. They need to play like veterans. For us to have a decent passing game, they need to play like veterans. If they're in the right place at the right time and Quinn has protection, he'll get the ball to them, and they'll catch it, and we'll score points, and we'll win games.
Is it a matter of running routes better? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand how complicated it is. A route is called in the huddle, and the route changes by the coverage they see. And the receiver and the quarterback have to read it exactly the same. Okay? When a quarterback reads the coverage, he expects a receiver to be in a certain spot. If a receiver's not there, he has to go to his second or third option. That all takes time. If everybody's in the right spot, he can go through his options 1, 2, 3 and get the ball to a guy that's open. If people are in the wrong spot, it throws a quarterback off. Okay, and then, so receivers have to be in the right spot, and then they have to go make him look good. They have to go get the ball. I mean, we had 3 or 4 times last week, we had as good a coverage as you can have, and the quarterback threw it up there, and their receivers went and out jumped us for the ball. So the receivers have to help the quarterback look good too. Quarterbacks do not do these things on their own.
So you think it's just a matter of timing with the receivers with Quinn? I mean, just that they're not as used to each other as maybe he and Izell were. Is that part of it?
I think that's part of it. But I mean, I think everybody has to be on the same page. If you have 3 receivers and 2 of them are doing the right thing and one of them is doing the wrong thing, and that's his number 1 read, that throws everything off. If it's his 3rd read, it probably doesn't throw it off because he gets the ball away to his 1st or 2nd read.
Rocky, do you have any thoughts after a slow start this year, especially against the Power 5 schools? Same thing last year. Should the scheduling be a little softer or not?
Not at all. Scheduling's just fine.
You started slow last year, right at the ship, so to speak, and still, made it to the bowl game at the end of the season. Is that something they use for the team now, kind of motivation, or to just stick with it mentally?
I think our team's played much better this year than it did at the beginning of last year. You all agree? Mm-hmm. Our football team's played much better in the early part of the season this year as opposed to last year. The record's even better. Barely better, but it's better. And I think that overall we played tougher competition. Ohio State was in there, so I won't say. The competition has been very equal to last year. And we've played better.
Is that something?
Now, we're not happy with the record, and we're not happy because, to be quite honest with you, I expect to beat those people. And our team goes into games expecting to beat those people. And when we don't, we're very disappointed. But let's put this in the proper perspective. We're playing better right now than we did at this time last year. Now, a very important game's coming up because it's our first conference game. And last year in our 4th game, we won, but we played terrible. And this is our 4th game. So if we play terrible and win, I'll be really happy.
Coach, how would you evaluate the DBs after the last game? I mean, KZ, for example, had a couple of those PI penalties, but the safeties, how would you say they did?
I thought the safeties played much better last week. And I think we all better get used to defensive holding penalties and defensive pass interference penalties being called a whole lot more than they used to be. I mean, the first interference call on KZ wouldn't have been called last year. The second interference call on KZ shouldn't have been called this year. But the emphasis is so much for them to call that, it's going to be called a lot more than it used to be called, and it's going to be called a lot more when it shouldn't be called. The first one was very questionable in my mind, even by today's rules. And the second one wasn't even close. But by today's rules, if you bump into a receiver, it's interference.
It seems like with this team, there's a little bit of a 3rd quarter lag when they come out. They give up 40 more yards per 3rd quarter on the ground than they do all the other quarters. Is there something that, you as the coaches can do or the players can motivate themselves? Like, why do you think it takes a while to get going coming out of halftime for this team?
I don't think it does. No, I don't agree with that. I think everybody makes halftime adjustments on offense that normally causes defenses trouble for the first half of the 3rd quarter. because they see what you're doing on defense and they go in and design a different blocking scheme or a different play or a different route. And then it takes your guys a little while to come over the sidelines and let the defensive coaches adjust to it. I do believe that's true. But their first drive in the third quarter last week, I mean, we got them 3rd and 8, and we got a guy come free on a blitz. And if he sacks the quarterback, guess what? They don't have the ball, we have it. Instead of them getting 30 more yards rushing because we missed the sack. I mean,
I believe that was that Fred on that.
Yeah, it was Fred.
How do you think he's is he coming into his own so far this season?
yeah, Fred's getting better. That was a mistake a lot of guys make. He just aimed at the wrong part of the quarterback. You know, and we have, I'm talking about the young receivers stepping up. I'm talking about young guys like Fred stepping up too. I mean, we're more talented, but we're a much less experienced team than we were last year. Much less experienced. And then when you lose an experienced guy like Ezel, it makes it worse.
Speaking of linebackers, Derek Argent, do you feel like he's fully healthy? Like he's back to
I don't think him and Gabbard are fully healthy. They're healthy enough to play.
Coach, was Fred? What's the rotation with him and? Is it
Cody, they go
Elliott?
about halves. They
So
get
has
about.
he been playing more as the year has progressed in terms of?
No, I think usually they stay in for a series, and sometimes one's in for a longer series than the other one is.